Well, that's taking a while to get started.
Yeah, the internet's been a little dodgy today.
And hello, everyone. I'm Dan Lutz, and welcome to the front lines with me and
Tank.
sorry, I'm fighting with my system here that's not wanting to let's say move at the right speed. It says that the video output volume is low. I get like a red label on the broadcast, so I don't know how well that's turning out. Looks like it's coming across okay though.
I'm sure people will chime in and let us know that they cannot hear us, or they can, as always.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
So what's going on, Dan?
What's going on? I've just let me just I'll touch base. I normally don't talk too much about the Kringle Society and what's going on there, but we've had a major let's say upset in the community because of a policy that was put in place by the admin over over it, and the policy was basically, I pointed out, was a form of extortion. Right, you pay, or we're going to remove your coin. Extortion. And then removing it would have been theft. So we filed some papers within the jurisdiction of Pontero de Oro and talked about this. And so the policy got voided. That's about 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And there was a...
So,
yeah.
It's interesting. So let me just make sure I understand this correctly. So, extortion is when you say, either you do this
or
or
else.
we're going to take something from you or
Right.
something like that, right?
Yeah, do it or else, or basically, financially.
Do it or else.
Yeah, it's like the extortion racket. Think of mobsters, right? It's like comes in there once a week into your store and gets their protection money. Hey, we'll protect you from us.
Right.
Yeah. So you won't have any more problems as long as you pay. Now, in this case, the policy was voided, but there was some other things that needed to get done, and also the whole direction was this is to eliminate poverty. And was a small, donation on some way of looking at it, of $10 to join and get your wallet, and you get free coin associated with that. And that model, there's nothing wrong with it. We grew at 3.3 million members, so it's there. Now it's at 3.4, 3.5. But now, now it was raised to $25 and tied into a network marketing type of opportunity type of thing, which this particular type of network marketing opportunity is actually an illegal type, meaning that you can't take the fees that are coming in and split it with your upline. Right? You're not allowed to do it. But that's part of what this is. Now, you can say it's a private society and all that, but then it gets down to, is that part of what the maxims of equity, would say would be something that would not be right or not. But that's a whole other issue. It's still, the direction of this particular style of network marketing is, let's just say, it leaves a lot of dead bodies behind. And in network marketing terms, that means that the people you're bringing into it can't do what you're doing to bring people in. Yeah, they can talk to their sister and their family and their friends and kind of get them involved, right? But that's it, right? So where they now are signed up to pay monthly to be in this, they can't get enough people coming in unless you're doing this one thing, right? So that leaves them cast aside. That's the dead body, right? So 1 out of 1,000 people that come into these things really can start the networking type of thing. But we're talking about the mission of this organization is to eliminate global poverty. It doesn't sound like that's the mission anymore, right? You've raised it up to $25 a month. And the poorer countries, they can't afford that, right?
Right.
Even in their family and friends and the people they're going to try and bring into this, they're not going to be able to. So everyone's upset, right? And they're really going. And I was accused of doing a coup d'état with the other leaders against the admin. If we wanted a coup d'état, why would we try and say, here's the Privy Council? We kind of talk and say, okay, we formed the Privy Council, even though the overseer is the one that's supposed to form it, right? So we formed it, and then Pantera said it was not properly formed, and so the admin has to do it. Well, it's already now, weeks later, and there's still no word about a Privy Council or what's going on with it. No word, but they still, other than eliminating the extortion part of the policy, the network marketing piece is still moving forward. And so it's like everyone's upset. Then a lot of the people are demanding who is the admin, right? They want to find out who it is, and they're asking me to reveal who the admin is, and then there's anyway, so much anger in this. And then one of the other things that people were saying, and the admin also accused me in this coup d'etat, was of making a new coin. And I was working on one for 4 months, right? And then the money that was supposed to be paid to me never was materialized, and so that project's sitting on the shelf, is hanging out there. So yeah, I can see why people would think maybe I was trying to create a new coin, but there was no
Yeah.
intent to do that, right? It was just about moving forward and solving the problems because we're going in the wrong direction, and everybody agrees. So I said to my group there, we've got you know 2,200 members in it. And I said, should we look at making a new coin? Should we just look at doing this? Because you know this is not changing fast enough. I haven't been contacted for a new privy council. None of the other leaders that I know of have as well. And if they have, that's fine. They can form it without me if that's what they want to do. But the whole flavor of everything that they're doing is going down the wrong path. So anyway, there was overwhelming support. I mean, there was actually no one saying not to do it. Not to go forward and make a new coin and run with it. So anyway, that was just last night, and I had hundreds of responses, and I saw there's another 140 this morning when I woke up. I haven't gone through them yet. So a little bit of drama since this all broke loose last night, and I went, okay. So anyway, we'll see where this is going to go. But there's some good ideas. What people want things to happen and how they should work. So anyway, we'll see what happens. So that's my this news. So do you have any news? What's going on?
Oh my goodness, yeah. I had a very important meeting with Kim and a group that is designing a system, or has already built a system actually that's already functional and ready to go. And we had to go through their compliance measures, through their banking compliance measures. And once again, you have confirmed that Kim is exactly who we say she is. And it's confirmed by another group. So and that extends to some of the highest levels there in Europe. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but that's great news. And also really amazing. As we were talking to this gentleman, now this is one of the people kind of in our extended network within the creators network. Actually, they basically they've been in our network for a while, and we I talked to them. This has been going on for like 3 weeks now, and the first conversation kind of melted their mind, and they then came back, and they were supposed to come back so that they could access the system, so they could actually see with their own eyes, right?
Right.
Because Kim would give access to anybody who has a legitimate tool that she needs to actually draw the money down in an alternative way to the actual people. And so that was that's kind of the people we've been talking to, like not people that have to build it from scratch, so that's going to take some time, but people that already have it built so we can expedite these things, right? Now, essentially, you have the entire world on the verge of a global collapse, and people don't really realize that's going on because it's all being done with smoke and mirrors right now with various, they printed up massive amounts of, new super notes, I guess. They're trying to bring those into the banking system. I'd imagine they're trying to bring them in through Reno. And then you have there's various other things like that taking place, like the little scam you were telling me about that they tried to hit you up with, right?
Yeah.
Like, give me $100 bill, we'll give you back a white piece of paper that's worth 2 of those $100 bills. It's magic, right? So, like, whatever that means. Maybe I'm oversimplifying. So, so that's that kind of stuff is going on all over. But what was amazing, and it's always amazing to me when I talk to Kim. One, Kim is very much in a position of power right now. She did start to make some transfers, and they cleared instantly because the entire system is running on a brand new system, right? So the VAX port system has been completely destroyed. It no longer works. Now the VAX port system is how they would keep money in limbo, how they would transfer money all types of places, and it had absolute control of every transfer that went out. And that system is destroyed. It doesn't work anymore. So now there's a brand new system which she has absolute control in the new lines, and that will actually save the economy because the echelon system, I think it's called, but the old financial system, right? Like she was referencing things like Prometheus and all these different systems they think they had. They were all designed to cannibalize themselves, and they were all set to basically fall apart and just destroy the economy by like 2017. And it's really because Kim kept things afloat that we're still even able to talk about this and able to get by them, right? Because the real assets have always been attached to currencies, and the mapping system maps everything. I mean, you can go into the mapping system and show, what is the rate that tomatoes were growing at in 1865, things to that extent, all the way up to the financial system of today. And this has been going on for a very, very long time. So, which, I don't know, I mean, I've heard Kim say those things before, but it always kind of amazes me how thorough it is, right? And she also, I'm going to put out many details on this, but like, she also offered some insight into a more complete global security system to prevent a lot of the nonsense that is out there, such as, you remember the Chinese were going to, they were in the hotels there in Pakistan, and they were getting ready to wage war, right? They were getting ready to start a war. That was resolved because of, some actions that Kim took with her team, and also some of the wildest conspiracy theories that we imagine would be a hurricane and, how they were placed over top of different islands for an extended period of time.
Right.
Those theories are maybe not exactly right, but they're pretty well validated today too. So it's pretty amazing stuff that's been going on.
One of the things, just a little thing interesting is that in that story about they were actually controlling the hurricane by a ship that had some, equipment on it, and that would actually, wherever the ship went, it would actually pull the hurricane with it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Now that I didn't confirm exactly, but I know that there's battles that go on, and sometimes they need cover. That's kind of what I was told. So and then Kim did successfully put 2 transfers on the ground level. She's set up various. They had their big planning meetings, right? Like they're all in place, like from Switzerland, and they were planning in Germany. And so the latest planning meeting in Germany, they were all supposed to come with a plan, and not one of them had a plan. Their plan was like the same old thing being repeated over and over again.
Yeah.
And so Kim's the only one now. She offered a plan. Now she's not part of that group, but she offered up a plan regardless, and she explained how it worked. Now I can't entirely understand why there's a plan that they need to be included at all, personally. But I guess that speaks to the lack of clearance that I might have, I guess, at that level. But I don't see why they should be consulted even. They've already, and I guess their plan they're trying to come up with is now that they've changed from the, global genocide plan to the restore the planet plan. But Kim broke it all down, how these different categories of finances would be broken down, for the different countries, and how they would have different funds for, infrastructure, and different funds for projects and all these different things, and how it would be categorized within the system. And it would be a real economic system. And she made a great point. She's like, they do not understand economics, right? And because they don't understand economics, everything they do is based around them having, 95% of the wealth, and us dividing them. It's like, yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, so they don't get how to operate any other way. So yeah, they're kind of like contained in their own prison. They have just a much nicer prison.
Right, and in the speaking of this guy who he's banking compliance, right? And he definitely knew a lot of things going on, which doesn't always happen. A lot of these people, you talk to them, if they're not high up in the bank, they don't have a clue what's going on. I think as a rule, if we're speaking to a banker and they have no idea that the banking system is on the verge of collapse, then they have no idea what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You can end the conversation right then because they don't know what's taking place. Anybody in the banking world who actually knows what's going on knows that they are negative liquidity. They have no money. Now, Kim discussed some of the accounts that she has set up in people's accounts and stuff, and she did say that she made some regular transfers, right, that cleared instantly. And I think it was Thursday or Friday, and they had already cleared, right, because she's the authority that clears it, right? So they already cleared, and then the banks moved the money because they got a call from one of the Rothschilds who told them to move the money. And she did go into some detail about the Federal Reserve, how the Federal Reserve, they called him this week, right, looking for funds. And they're like, what, we need money. We can't, there's all this stuff going on. We can't do anything. And so she basically broke it down. She's like, first of all, you have no charter. Do you know that? And they were like, we had no idea, because they've been being lied to by the Chinese elders and the other, I guess, hierarchy of the Chinese elders. I guess even when I see Chinese elders, I think of these little Chinese men. But I guess it's like, the IMF is part of the Chinese elders, right? And they're not Chinese. And most of them are just, old white guys. So, so basically they've been telling them that they have all this money, and Kim actually took them through step by step with the program and showed them how they have no money, right? Which, to the point that the Federal Reserve is actually very, very willing to help. Now, the other thing is she also told the Federal Reserve, she said, and you were owned by the Rothschilds, your whole group, and they didn't know that either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't know they were part of Rothschilds. And I'm like, what?
That's like,
what goes?
It's like everybody knows, except the ones.
Do you not have the internet? What are you talking about? You don't know. Like, how buried in nonsense do you have to be?
Well, it's not in the handbook. It's not in the employee handbook.
It's interesting though. It seems like it must track back, right? Because in the actual mapping system, it does, because that documentation is what finalizes and confirms or disproves anything. So if you're going to get a solid confirmation of what's real, you have to track it back to there. So that's kind of like what happens. But so they didn't know that, which I just found to be fascinating, right? They didn't even know. Mm-hmm. So but to their credit, whoever these individuals are, 'cause I don't know. When I hear Federal Reserve, I'm immediately of the mindset that they're corrupt. To be honest, So I guess I'm prejudiced in that way, not intentionally, but because of everything we know. And but I guess they were very willing to help, and they wanted to change things. And I'm like, my personal attitude is like, yeah, you should probably be fired immediately, right? Like, you definitely shouldn't be working there. You don't know that you don't have a charter. You don't know that you who owns your organization. You don't know that you don't have a function. What are you doing every day at your job exactly? Like, you're adjusting interest rates. How long does that take? Okay, we had 37 meetings this quarter, and we decided we'll take the interest rates down a quarter of a point. So let's get that going.
I kind of had this mental picture of like the Fed window, where you'd go up to the Fed window, right, and you'd be knocking on the window for them to open up, and you have, like, if you remember, like, these 1920s mobster movies where they have the alcohol in barrels, and they're sitting around playing cards, all the gangsters, right? And then someone's coming in, they kind of they're not doing anything, they're just hanging out waiting for something that they're supposed to go do. And I it's just because, what are they doing there, right? Are they printing the money? I don't know. That's done someplace else. What does the Fed?
As far, I have no idea. I don't know of anything they do. It's comical to me at this point. It's like, well, but everybody looks to them for answers, right? Everyone is looking to them like, hey, show us what to do here. You need to get.
Dang. He's not muted. Just not there. Hello. Well, why don't we go look at something else? I was sent an interesting document yesterday. It is the treaty of between the United States and the Ukraine on sharing mutual legal assistance in criminal matters. This was actually formed during the Clinton administration. Dun dun dun. Yeah, let me switch it up over here. One moment. So we'll just cover this until Tank of it. Now, I would say this is a 31-page document. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. The point is that we already have a treaty to assist one another with the Ukraine. So what Trump would be doing there is saying, hey, we need some assistance. You know, calling it a favor. What if he said, in accordance with the treaty of July 27, 1998, you know, we require you to assist us in this matter. Now, what would they do? You know, it's like, well, you know, he's going by the treaty. There must be something wrong with that, right? And this was basically, you know, William Jefferson Clinton that basically put this in place. So, locating or identifying persons, transferring persons in custody or for testimony and other purposes, executing requests and searches and seizures, assisting in proceedings related to restraint, confiscations, forfeitures of assets, a collection of fines, and any other form of assistance not prohibited by law. So, I don't know. It seems like Trump is in the right to ask for some assistance, right? Hey, he said, do me a favor. Now, if that sounds a little mob-bosh-ish, okay, mob-bosh-ish. Mob-bosh-ish by mob-bosh-ish. Anyway, you know what I mean. So it sounds a little bit like a mobster would say something like this, right? You know, the gangsters are hanging out and say, hey, do me a favor, right? And, you know, if you do a favor, hey, then you're in. So this is something that is, you know, quite normal between countries, right? To assist to one another. If you actually have a treaty stating that, wouldn't that make sense? That he should want to go ahead and do that. So let's see, what else can we pick out here? I guess I said I really want to just point it out that we have this, right? We don't need to read the entire thing to know that it's quite normal for us to want to ask these things, right? Between leaders of countries. Hey, we've got a situation here. Looks like Biden is out there bragging that he, you know, performed a crime, right? And he's happy about it, and he's in with the other mobsters going, hey. Well, that's the Council of Foreign Relations, if you see. Where was that when he was doing that bragging? Let's see. So yeah, so it's quite detailed, as I said. There's a lot of stuff in here. Looks like Tank is gone. I think Tank sometimes gets knocked off. He doesn't know he's off and he's talking. And then
I'm here.
Ah, you're here. Okay. I was just going over the treaty between the Ukraine and the United States.
I always tell you guys so many amazing things. I just kept talking. I didn't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said, well, you figure it out sooner or later. I just highlighted one little part. I'll tell you what it is. What it says. This is signed by William Jefferson Clinton, and it's really just about what is going on. So the treaty is self-executing. It provides for a broad range of cooperation in criminal matters. Mutual assistance available under the treaty includes taking of testimony or statements of persons, providing documents, records, and articles of evidence, serving documents, locating or identifying persons, transferring persons into custody for testimony or other purposes, executing requests for searches and seizures, assisting, asking for a favor, in proceedings related to restraint, confiscation, forfeiture of assets, restitution and collection of fines, and any other form of assistance not prohibited by the law of the state requested. So that's the summary of what's going on here. So, Trump is asking for assistance, right, by the treaty. And if he said in the conversation, instead of saying, "Hey, can you do me a favor?" Like a gangster, right, would do, he would say, in accordance with the treaty that we've signed in on July 22nd, 1998, I'm requiring your assistance. Right? Would there be any problem with that? Now, it's much more friendly the way Trump put it.
Right. President Trump actually said, and I need you to do me a favor. Now, there's nothing about, I love Adam Schiff's version, right? And when he was going off like an idiot, saying, and just to make my point, I'm only going to say this 7 times.
Right.
What the crazy lunatic shit are you talking about?
Yeah.
These things, it's like they had this ideal that they wanted to happen, but it didn't. It didn't. Now, I got a tweet that went out that said the AP press was reporting that the Clinton Foundation had actually paid the whistleblower to create this report, right? This fake report against President Trump, right?
Right.
Now, I don't know. That seems a little too easy to me. And I haven't been able to validate it, so I just want to clarify that. But it also seemed to imply that Schiff and Nancy Pelosi were involved. Now, that does seem right, because didn't you say that Schiff was actually part of writing the whistleblower report?
Yeah, there's reports that are coming out that says that some of the staffers from Adam Schiff's intelligence committee were involved in the writing of the whistleblower report.
Huh. Well, that just seems incredibly convenient.
Incredibly, right? Especially since Schiff himself in a Twitter about a month ago put out some phrasing that was exactly what was in the report, right? So it's like he already knew what the report said.
Well, I think what's going on here is very obvious. Adam Schiff is a prophet, and I think we can all embrace that, because obviously he knows more than all of us.
The Greg Gunkfield on Fox, right? He had this little parody that was set up about Adam Schiff, and he showed that Woody, from Toy Story, was suing for a paternity test.
That's good.
So you're my father. Come on, admit it. Because he's wooden, right? So he's making a lot of wooden jokes about Schiff. So.
Yeah.
But that's I think you were hitting on something. These people are all told the same lie. Hey, you're meant to be president. You're meant to be this important person in this, and you're there to save the world, right? They buy into this ego delusion, right? That they're put into. And they're the ones, right, that are going to basically save all of humanity by killing it and doing all these horrible things, right?
Okay, so here's what's really incredible, right? So I spoke to Kim about this like early on, right? And she explained to me how there are different groups and different types of people. Right? Like this is all like Marduk, Sun Tzu war psychology type stuff, right? So these different groups, basically, what happens is they are they're motivated by different things, right? So the different things that motivate them could be like, I'm motivated to perform at the highest ethical standard for the greatest good, and so much so that I will do it for free to maintain that, right? Now,
I know how that
kind
is.
of us, right? Yeah, that's kind of us. So
I said, that sounds familiar.
Right. So as you said that, I kind of felt like a rube for a minute. I was like, oh, she was kind of saying how now what was interesting is as we spoke about that, she was explaining how now these people are often manipulated because they're told they're operating according to the highest greatest good, right? And so I know a lot of people like that, and I have also been a person like that, right?
Boy, is this really ringing true in my ears, especially with this controversy with the Kringle Society now. It's like,
right, because you want to do right, by everybody, which is why money is such a problem, right? Because money was put here to harvest our energy. That's why money's here. So, at the time I was working with these folks from the Global Currency Reset, right, who had amazing paperwork. I mean, it was incredible. They were appointed. They were like, they offered me and told me like that I was going to end up being a general for the United Nations, for the greater movement, how there was a good side of the United Nations, and and later they admitted, they said, yes, we know it is the cabal, it is the order, but but we're the ones who are navigating through it in a good way. And right. They were really lovely, amazing people too.
Right.
And but at the end of the day, like they were really on the wrong side because there is no global currency reset and it's all corrupt. Right. So there's that group of people, right? But if you know how to manipulate them, you know what to promise them and what position to put them in. And these poor people were, starving. I mean, it was like the dead of winter. They were like trying to figure out what they were going to do, and like they had their little apartment. They were just barely getting by, and they basically going to have to go out, it's like in the dead of winter in Canada. So, things like that. Now, then you have like other people, right, that are motivated just by money or by power or by by fame or accolades. You're so wonderful, or and there's all these different things, and this was all part of the plan, right? Like, so if you want to know where you're at in the spectrum, if you're in line and opposing, you kind of ask yourself, well, what motivates me, right? Like, what really motivates me, and am I being manipulated in some way, good or bad? Sometimes it doesn't mean you're part of something bad. It just means, like, is that something you're willingly, consciously choosing, right? And I'm just amazed by that because part of what's happened is that Kim has taken the source energy and brought it in through all the electronics, right? So what they were trying to do to hurt us, she's used it to heal us and to allow us to wake up naturally, right? And as much as possible. But whenever I talk to these different, banks and different sources, they're always, it's like they almost get it, and then but they just can't understand. They always come back to the same basic principle, And then all it takes is one person to come back and say something different. And they don't have to validate it even. All they have to say is "nuh-uh," or "no, it's not," and we believe that because that's our programming. So that's tough. It's tough to break out of. So, anyways.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just listening to you. It's kind of like I'm rolling through this whole scenario that I'm dealing with right now, right? That I opened up and talked about in the beginning of our broadcast, because it's like, was I manipulated? That's part of the scenario, right? With the one that I had started this whole process of of TPC with, right? Was it really just a manipulation? And I can say that I was manipulated, and so was everyone else. That is, because all of us that are gathered in here that are the leaders. I mean, we have such good hearts, and we're really, buying this concept of what we're trying to do, which is a very good concept. But it's not going that direction, right? It's kind of like, well, we say we're doing this, but we're doing that, right? And so this is why there was a big upheaval in this last month.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know. I mean, so I don't know if you heard the things if you really heard what I was talking about or where I got cut off.
No, I did not hear because you were cut off.
Where did I get cut off? Did I mention things about the hurricane and stuff?
Yeah, right there, right after that. Because I talked about leading it with a ship, right? They have equipment on a ship, and then that really was what leads the hurricane to another spot, right?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I know Kim. She mentioned she made some transfers. I don't know where. Like to, I think the implication was to regular people, and they cleared instantly, and they had moved the banks, moved those transfers, into clearance. And so she basically, she's like, so we'll see if Tuesday if they clear, like with the banks and things like that. Because that wouldn't be out of the question, right?
Right.
If you're allowing the banks to do their job, right? And I will say that, at the end of the day, it's these groups, they are very much about controlling everything and suppressing everything. And it's all based really on lies, right?
Right.
And I watched this happen over and over and over again. And I watched it today with this gentleman who clearly, was very well connected in Europe, and he was explaining some different things. And and he was into diamonds and gold, right? And he had all types of really impressive connections, and, different assets all over. And he wasn't arrogant about it at all. Very humble guy. And he said, and he started talking about one of his sources who really wanted to bring money in. And he goes, now they have an SKR, but I know that is real. It is definitely not fake. Very confident in what he was saying, right?
Right.
And immediately Kim goes, it is fake, right? And then she explained why. She said, because all of the gold has been reassigned and reallocated. New allocation numbers have been listed. It's all new. So anything that is of old, right, these old accounts that people think they have a lot of money on, she has changed and rearranged all of the allocation numbers for everything. So anybody who's dead set because they've had this since the times of old, ancient this, and whatever, it's just not true. And by the way, she had absolute authority to do that. She had every right because this stuff was all stolen. It was stolen from different people. So that was one of those things where you could see, you could feel the drop, right?
Right.
Because in this, what you start to realize, the more people I talk to, right, the more, the higher the connections that I have with different people, you realize they all come with, some idea, and it always goes back to some weird, we're going to put it into a trade platform. It's basically how do we control it so people don't get the money? But the most novel concept, right, it seems like, in the history of modern banking is the idea of giving people the money so they can manage it themselves. So they can use it, right? So they just have access to it. They can just go and create things versus, create a greater mountain of wealth for someone to control them, right? And everything with the socialist, communist, religious, religion idea, their whole way that they structure things is basically they want us to give our control to them. They want us to give over our soul, our life, and say, please make decisions for me. So, and the way they sell it to us is, wouldn't you like to be free from having to make decisions? You don't want the burden of having to decide how to stay healthy. Because think about it, it's very hard to stay healthy when people with a ton of money are raining down poison on you, literally.
All right.
I mean, that's an incredible, we exist in a vat of poison from above.
It's it's called crop dusting.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, we're the crop.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we're the crop, right?
Right. What they do, that's why we have this glucose intolerance phenomena going on because of Roundup. Right. They spray all of the wheat with Roundup before harvest to kill the plant, so it's easier for them dollar wise, right? Because it makes it much easier to get the wheat out of the dead, biomass than it is from to harvest it wet, and then dry it out. So it dries out by this poison Roundup weed killer, and then they change the amount of wheat of that poison that's allowed to be in the food. Now everyone keeps eating a lot of bread. Why do they end up getting this problem with gluten? Is because they build up this amount of this poison in them, and every time you add a little more poison, they get a little more sick, right?
So, right. It's just like with flowers in the attic, right? She just kept putting a little, arsenic in their food every day until they just kill them off, right?
Right. Yeah. Same thing.
And that way you get what you want out of us, right? You get whatever production you want, and then you control how long we live. And it's really fascinating because I realize it all comes down to the intent, right? That is what makes everything. That's what sorts out all the lies, right? Because right now it's funny. It's something in Telegram. I don't know how this works exactly, but I keep getting included in these groups. So I mean, I must have 50 groups right now, right? There's all types of groups, and I don't know how they formed or if they really meant to have me in it, or but they bring me to the group. Some of them are 100 people or whatever, and I'm in these groups, and for the most part, I don't really respond much or participate because I just can't keep up with it. Right?
Sure.
But this one group, right, was like kind of a hardcore eco activist group, right? And in some of their commentary, I mean, it really is a very intelligent group, and they're very sharp. So I put one comment in, right? And then immediately I got attacked by somebody who was like, division is an illusion. Like the idea that we're divided is really an illusion. We're so similar. And they attacked me like, it's like neocolonialism is not an illusion. And I'm like, no, that's a great point. Neocolonialism is not an illusion, right? Because that is what's happening, right? The idea of, we remain a colony because they still control all of our policies. And but they can also indoctrinate us with whatever they want to be real.
Right.
But one of the things that happened is they started going in this whole group about, climate, CO2 levels, and it's so out of control. It's such a major problem. It's such a big deal. And as they say, and I'm telling you, this is the most intelligent conversation. Some of the things they're saying, so I really had to read it, which I never do. So I must have read 150 posts, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, was exhausting. It was an exhausting amount of energy to put in here to find out that there's a lot of big words and a lot of misunderstandings. Right? Like, there's really a belief that somehow carbon dioxide, what is it, like 3% of our atmosphere?
Which we create.
Is the big,
right? I mean,
we create.
Well, we don't actually. We don't create. I'm sorry, that's wrong. We filter out of our lungs, right?
Right.
And I don't know if we're actually creating it. That's interesting. I wonder if we're converting and creating carbon dioxide. So, basically, active living is causing the pollution in their mind, right? So, ultimately, we end up we're killing the planet because we're alive. So we must save the planet by killing ourselves. That's what's behind this, right? That's the flavor of what they're trying to get to. They were trying to get people to accept killing off the humanity.
And that's exactly what I talked about. Is that so? What they've done is they've got everybody to they've got a large portion of the population bought in to. There's not just global warming. There's not just climate change or a climate crisis, but it's caused because of the CO2. And you could ask anybody about carbon emissions being given off. Everyone knows. One thing we all know is that comes from us, right? So how far of a stretch is it? You keep saying this, and you keep making it a crisis, an emergency. And it doesn't take. It's not a stretch, right? And then you combine that with shaming people, right? people, we all think that we're supposed to be the center. We've got to be more humble. We've got to think of the greater good of humanity, right? So this is why I always talk about, with Create Change, we focus on what's in the best interest of humanity, the planet, and the individual human experience. Because when you just focus on what you think, based on the limited data you have, is the best interest of humanity, a lot of death can happen, because you can justify things like, we need to kill off 90% of the population, right? So that we can so we can save the planet, because we're so overpopulated. Now, that's the
just
belief
like
system right now.
Yeah, that's like Bill Gates in his TED Talks, innovating to zero. Zero carbon emissions means nobody breathing. You're gonna have to have carbon credits to have to be able to breathe. If you don't have enough carbon credits, they cut you off.
Later, it's like that movie where like time was the most valuable asset, right?
Oh yeah.
And like when you had time, you could get just enough time to get like just outside the city, but you could really never leave.
Right.
And you had to work nonstop just to stay alive every day.
No, it's the same thing with gas prices. They increase the price of gas so much that you can't afford to actually travel. Right? Same thing. It's controlling your flow, your right to travel, because they make it too expensive to.
So, here's what's fascinating, right? So, I know I have never been an environmental activist anyway. Now, I don't litter, right? Just because I'm neurotic about it, I make sure I always throw my stuff away.
Right.
I've actually, one time my kids dropped something in a parking lot when they were like 3 years old or 4 years old, and I made them pick up everything in the parking lot out of the principle, just so they would learn the lesson not to litter, right? So, but that's about as active as I've ever been with the environment. However, I do like this planet. I'm glad I live here, and I appreciate it, right? So, but in hearing, the way that these people think, and just how ridiculous it is, because it just seems like the only option is to limit our freedom. That is what has been told, right?
Right.
So the United Nations come out, and what do? They cleverly describe how they're going to kill humanity. We're going to abolish poverty. Well,
by abolishing the poor people.
Yeah, you're talking about people, right? So what you're saying is we're going to kill off the poor who aren't part of our bloodline, right? Because they're not part of us, or whatever it is, right? And we're going to kill them. So, and by abolishing them, then we'll save the planet, right? Hooray! So,
well, they've had this mission to eliminate global poverty forever, right? But they keep failing, so now they figure, let's do it this way. Let's kill off all the poor people. Then we have no more poverty.
Right.
So let's stop.
So
stop them.
So Kim described this situation, right? And Kim was in these very high level meetings, and in these very high level meetings, I mean the highest level on the planet, right? Like this is the Marduk meetings, like the meeting of the these think tanks at the top. And they're sitting around and they were saying, we're having a real hard time controlling the Middle East, right? So what they decided in their planning was they were going to move the entire population from the Middle East out to some other country like Iraq or something. And then all those who stayed behind, they would just kill them off, right? And this was their plan, right?
Yes.
Now, this wasn't a, Kim was kind of like, so you think that's going to work? But their goal was to control the people. There was no thought about the people, about their lives, about their kids, about who they were, what possible ideas or dreams existed there. None of the things that one would consider when considering these are human lives. So what it comes down to is, what is their intent? Now, if we go into all these battles from a perspective of the people. Now, our intent is to not just survive, but to thrive, right? Because if our goal is just to survive, we're surviving now, right? We've shown against impossible odds we can survive. That's not the point. The point is to thrive, right? Because we have an obligation and responsibility to take care of the planet and each other, and really, at some point, I'm sure to contribute to the rest of the greater universe, right? Now, we can't do that as long as all the controls in the hands of these very few who their intent is to control us.
Right.
See, we have opposing agendas. So when you hear, Adam Schiff, and he's just appalled, right? Well, who's he talking to? Well, he's talking to other people who are equally appalled because they are part of the elite bloodline. And they just, for the life of them, cannot figure out, but we're elites. We deserve this. This is our place. In their world, they're talking about controlling, an infestation of rats for all they care.
Right.
Right? They have no idea how one of the rats became president. And they're just like, we have to impeach him. Just based on the fact that he is fighting for the people, that makes him in opposition to their agenda. And it's very obvious for anybody who's quasi-awake. It's not even hidden anymore. It's like you wrote the report, Schiff. I mean, they're not even discussing. I watched on 60 Minutes tonight. Just briefly, just a few pieces of it, and they basically said no legitimate findings have been found on Joe Biden. There's a recording of Joe Biden. There's three recordings of Joe Biden in different settings, bragging about how he set up.
Well, I've only seen the one. I've only seen the one of the Council of Foreign Relations.
I saw him at a party talking about it, bragging about it. He was in front of a crowd, just at a podium. And then there's one where he's sitting down, at a stage, like a talk show.
That was the Council on Foreign Relations. It's a perfect place for him to brag, right?
Right.
Those are his people, man. It's his peeps. So at least we know that they have their own groups, right? And they're they have this idea that they're doing the right thing. So that's why it kind of seems it's like when you listen to how they sound that they are coming from a place where they really believe what they're saying, right? Because they do, but it's within that narrow band of elite, which are not elite. We have to come up with a new name for these people.
Elite mediocrity. Yeah.
The unbright. I don't know. The dim. They're not illuminated. They're pretty dim.
They're dim. Yeah, well, definitely dim. No, they're the elite mediocre. I mean, they were the most obedient slaves, right? They do whatever they were told to get ahead. Yeah. They chose. It goes back to the point of motivation. What motivates you? So, if you're motivated by money and control, you're very easy to control if we're in control of the money. And then we make money the sole, deciding factor that decides whether or not you can do things. Right? So that's what they have. So I watched this train wreck of a 60 Minutes, which, it was just awful. It was just awful. They didn't get to any glimpse of the truth, right?
Right.
And they're showing Adam Schiff there, and then they interviewed this one Republican who did a horrible job answering the question. They asked, what do you think about President Trump saying this, right? About saying this to this Ukrainian leader. And I'm just like, would somebody man up, please, for the love of God? What did he say? He said, hey, we've helped you more than anybody else. But is this out of line with anything we know about President Trump? That he's going to remind the country that, we're doing business with, that we're giving aid to? Is the expectation that we just give aid blindly to everybody because we have to? We don't have to. And as far as quid pro quo goes, even if he said, look, I'll give you this money, but you're going to investigate Joe Biden because I want to know if there's criminality there. You know what? I wouldn't have complained to anybody. I mean, the guy's bragging about extorting them to hook up his heroin addict, alcoholic son who got, dishonorably discharged from the military and made a $1.5 billion deal. Do we really need to defend Hunter Biden? I mean, no, I don't think so. I don't think anybody's out there is poor Hunter. He's a victim of what? Of being a loser, and somehow he gets to win anyways? Would any of us have that same luxury? Would any of us be given the same benefit of the doubt? None of us would be. I mean, so this whole idea is just so it's so corrupt, and it's very obvious. It's not even hard. And then think about it. There's so much evidence. The Ukrainian government came out with I think it's called the Solomon Memos, where the Americans went back over to the Ukraine, and they apologized for Joe Biden's behavior because they were doing damage control for Joe Biden, right? And they said they were apologizing for conflicting reports. Why aren't you talking about that 60 Minutes? Why aren't you talking about the real crime that was committed versus President Trump, who had a conversation, and when he was accused of anything, he immediately said, here's a transcript. Take a look. He was completely transparent. Here's what I said. I said, we've helped you out. We've done this. Glad we have a relationship. Hey, I need you to do me a favor. And check into this and check and see if Joe Biden committed a crime here. So wait. So at the end of the day, what we're saying is we need to impeach a president. How dare he? How dare he have a crime investigated or a potential crime investigated?
Well, one of the things that QAnon had said, is that they're all running for president because they think it's going to give them protection. I think what Trump is pointing out right now, right, 1 year before the election, right, we're close, we're not quite there yet, but 13 months away, that they can run for president, but it's not going to protect them. He's going to go after them. So, because this is a complete setup. I mean, he set them up royally. Biden and Clinton and Obama, all in one fell swoop. So basically putting the what's the name of that company? It was he mentioned it. It wasn't Crossfire Hurricane. It was
Project Hurricane? No, I know what you're talking about.
No, it's in this. He mentions the group CrowdStrike. That's it, CrowdStrike.
Oh, CrowdStrike.
CrowdStrike, right. which is how this Mueller report came together, right? Which is what was hired by Hillary Clinton, which is also tied into the Hammer Project, which is also tied into I forgot what the other one is. Anyway, so they're using the same tools that they put in place, right? Because they were invulnerable, right? They've had control over the whole system, right? Other than Reagan popping in there, after Kennedy, right? They said, "Oh," and they put, and then George Bush came in to, shape up things, and then put in his son, and he's going to put in their other son. They're just they were so invulnerable. They set everything up, right? And they said they can do no wrong. So that's why they only have their tools. Right? And so this is the tool we use. We didn't need multiple ones because they use the same things. So if Hillary, the Clinton Foundation, was now responsible for paying the assembly of this report for the whistleblower, it's because that's what they do. Right? It's the tools they have.
Listen, and I have not validated that report for the record, but I will say this: it's very probable, right? I mean, it's probably true, right? Because it makes sense. And if not directly, I mean, they've already traced it back to the Soros organization. Even my father-in-law, he even said, Soros is paying for it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I saw that. I saw the report on Soros, but Soros is behind a lot of the funding for these things. Even if it was, CrowdStrike that did some of this, or whatever the organization is, money probably still filtered through Soros, which he gets his money from the U.S. government as a NGO, right? To help humanity and all these other things, but he's using it for all these other purposes because for them, helping humanity is to kill off humanity.
Well, I'll tell you what, just kind of a tip, out there to help people make sound decisions who are, maybe in the banking industry, and there's a transfer that needs to be cleared that Kim put out there. Now, I just want you to know that the most protected place in any banking world, right, is the transfer room. And there's only a few of them. Every bank has a main transfer room, right? And cell phones aren't allowed inside of them, and you're not allowed. There's no cameras, right? It's very private, right? Because that's where all the whatever goes down. But when the Bank of America took $180 million to be transferred into it, and they sat there, conversing with each other, Kim was somehow able, with the quantum system, to film the entire thing. With no cameras, no cell phones, nothing. She just reversed the flow of whatever, and was able to see exactly what they're doing. When all these different things go down, the reason why it seems like Trump is omnipotent, it's not because, he's just so skilled. It's because Kim is providing him information that he needs, right, to make these decisions, and even with that, they still give Trump bad information, right? But think about the banks, right? Right now, they once again they transfer. There's nothing she doesn't know about people. I mean, I've seen it happen. Like when nobody talks about this, but Steve Mnuchin, the other day you saw him behind the president, and you'll notice he snapped the order. He let Mnuchin speak, and Mnuchin goes, "President Trump, as you requested, I did this." Right?
I remember that. I do remember that. Yeah.
I was like, from a guy who was making threats, saying he was in charge, he was the big dog, right? That's a pretty big change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it could be in part because Kim has, maybe because they released, Kim released certain things that showed that he was, part of these sex parties that raped this 13-year-old girl, right? That's, from what I understand, his wife left him because of it. Now, people don't even question where'd that come from. Well, Kim has access to all that stuff. Anything digital, she can pull the recording, knows what's going on, she knows what people are talking about. So all these people in these banks, they feared Mark Cuban, they feared the Rothschilds as gods because they seem to know everything. What they are missing out on is that she now has control of the system and the tools that allowed them to do that. So as they think they're hiding something and getting over on her, there's nothing they can do to get over on her. And the only difference is she's not a ruthless murderer. She's pro-humanity, right? She believes in what humanity is and can be. But it takes, and this was part of what we were talking about today, I'm like, people need a win. People need to know that this isn't just another RV because all of their lives have become our lives, right? Because they continue to try to take credit for the good and blame us for the bad. Think about it. What are they doing? Oh, our vibration isn't high enough. That's why it's not happening. Or this is happening. Well, all that stuff, and there could be some truth to that, but it's not because, humans are diabolically hateful. That is not true. What happens is if you put anyone in a constant fight for their life, you know what? If they have to kill somebody to get ahead, they probably will, right? Because they're fighting for their own life and the people they love.
Right.
So that creates the illusion that, we're all, fighting, we're ruthless and we're barbarians and, we'll do anything to get ahead. But that's not true. It's survival, right? And this is what I mean by, now, there's not a global climate warming issue, but there is a climate crisis. And the climate crisis is caused in large part when you have your crops that are struggling. It's because you created GMOs that are not drawing out enough nutrients to feed the people. And people are getting sick because they don't have the nutrients to keep their immune systems healthy. And
but they look good on the shelf. They'll look good on the shelf, right? Like the tomatoes.
Very organized, an organized killing system.
Yeah, and square watermelons. They don't roll around, easier to transport.
Right. Thank goodness. Thank goodness we got that problem solved.
Yeah, I know.
So and then you got heavy metals being dropped in the air, and all these different things, right? And all this, every one of these factors contributes to a dumbed down humanity that cannot focus on the real problems of our society because we're too consumed trying to survive.
Right.
And that's the real global climate crisis. And if we could just acknowledge that reality and just do something about that, and that starts with a few bankers, or whoever's there, realizing you are not hiding anything. There is no way for you to win this battle. The economy is on the verge of collapse, and the only thing stopping it from happening is Kim.
The one thing that they've learned, though, is whoever has the gold makes the rules, right? So, but why they just don't want to admit that they don't have the gold. It's just a form of denial, right? They're just going through the several stages of grief, right? And so as soon as they get to acceptance, maybe that's what Kim is waiting for them to do, is giving them the opportunity to get to acceptance of her role.
Well, it comes down to free will. And one thing I don't appreciate is I don't appreciate that humanity is judged based on the actions of these people. Because they have long since, exalted themselves above humanity and decided they're not human, right? They're something else. Whatever they are it's not human. Now they think they're above us,
Right.
you know. In my
Hello. Earth the tank. Come in, tank. Should I go back to the treaty? No, we've already covered the treaty.
no, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
So if you don't consider the reality of life and all the beauty of life and all
The beauty of life. Yes, we should consider the beauty of life. Is it? I think someone's calling Tank.
Jeepers creepers.
Someone calling you?
Oh.
Seems like repeated calls. Well, looks like he's taking the call now. Well, I think. Hello.
Hi, guys. Jason here. How you doing?
Good, Jason. How's it going?
Good. You know, I'm just listening to you guys, and you know, the treaty is in line, and it's just like I call them Democrats because they just like to break all the rules. And
I like demon rats.
demon rats, like Democrats. Well, I guess any way you cut it, they're bums.
Yeah.
And I was a registered Democrat all my life until I got wind of the downwind.
Yeah, it doesn't smell too good there. So, did you reach out to Carl?
No, I didn't go through this. I have his email. I just haven't done it yet. I'm just trying to finish up my my project in my house.
Yeah,
and,
he just connected to me on Telegram, so I can send you his Telegram ID also.
Oh yeah, that's good. That way we can include him more. The revolution is here. It just don't have to be have to be falling off the circle.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah. Well, yeah, we need to try and connect wherever we can, right? And
Oh yes, I was talking with my best friend Phil, and we came up with a plan for passing it on. I mean, call it a PAM, Patriots Action Movement, and you send out little things, thoughts that are very simple, and the people to act on, like whatever it is, like the big things, vaccinations and the pharmaceutical. And I agree 100% that we're being killed by them, especially when petroleum is made with, pharmaceuticals made with petroleum since 1910 with wonderful Rockefeller trying to expand his market. And if you read on a can of oil, it says it's a carcinogen. Don't put on your skin or consume.
yeah,
What's wrong?
yeah, I know. Even my wife has like Vaseline petroleum jelly. I said, why are you putting that on you? Oh, it's good for your skin. I said, who told you? I said, that's oil. That's why. No, it's not oil. I said, what's the word? It's called petroleum jelly.
The interesting thing is that anything that has an oil base can be made into a form of petroleum. But petroleum, as it is millions of years old, is a carcinogen because it's been baking for a long time. If you take take hemp or jojoba oil and cook it like regular oil, you would have the same mixture. And anyway, look at it's going off target. The energy of gasoline is still the most effective, but it makes the CO2 and carbon monoxide. And but if you convert it to hemp, you still may have a lower level of CO2. I mean, the must
CO2 is not a problem.
Well,
the idea that CO2 is a problem is the most ridiculous claim ever made. We have established many times. It's not an issue.
There was actually a guy that was in the U.S. Navy that was that did the original like weather studies or something like that. And he's the one that actually made this report that was the basis of CO2 being causing the temperature to rise, right? He never thought that it would be taken to this extreme. Now this was even back this when I heard him on the radio show. This was 15 years ago, right? Even at that point, he said, he even had changed his findings later on, right? But still, everything has still continued on as though this was the cause of global warming, because he didn't take into account, at that time, really the other effects of CO2 that are coming from other things such as like volcanoes. So one volcano, puts out more than we ever have, from the beginning of time until now.
Right.
So,
and the real problem is with the volcanoes is that it blocked the sun, so you don't kill life.
Well, right, and also it grounds airplanes.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of issues with volcanoes, definitely. But with regards to the CO2 side of it, this was something that he was really saying, that's more than we could ever do, because as part of the of our atmosphere, CO2 is less than 2%. So even if it was to go up by 2%, it's 2% of 2%. It's nothing.
Well, the thing is that CO2, we produce CO2. The thing is that we're depleting our rainforests, and we are destroying the plankton in the ocean,
yes,
which absorbs the carbon. And we have to be ecologically sensitive, because like 3 billion.
Stop, Jason. I'm sorry. I cannot stay on this show if we're going to talk about it. This is the conversation. This is bullshit. What you are repeating is things that we know are these things are natural ways the environment maintains homeostasis. Yes, there are problems with the way that they are burning rain. Okay, that's an issue, but they'll naturally reproduce new trees. You can drive from New York to LA, and you can do it without ever talking to a single person. There's not a population. There's not there, and you can drive through nothing but trees. There is plenty. Now the planet could comfortably handle 100 billion people and still be fine, right? And there's studies to show that. This idea of the CO2, it's the mentality. We've got to change that mentality because it's just not accurate. Yeah. There is a climate crisis that has been man-made, but it is not because man's breathing. Or any other thing like that. It's because they're putting chemicals in the air to block the sun. It's because they're geoengineering things that they used to call chemtrails and was a big conspiracy theory. Now they're boasting about it like it's some innovative idea.
Right.
It's because they're putting things that deplete the soil. It's because they're taking places like Ethiopia. There was the agricultural capital of Africa, and they buy up all the trees, and then they salt the plains so it can't grow anything. And then Ethiopia becomes a poster child for starving planet. These are all man-made, created tragedies. Now, I wouldn't even call them man-made. These are these, slave master, made programs. I mean, it's just not true. And I don't want there to be any misunderstanding about this. This is a fact. This is easy to prove for anybody who's willing to do real research instead of just go along with what they're hearing in various eco-terrorist groups. And that's what they are. They're eco-terrorist groups that are usually connected. Look, there's a big group out of in Europe, and they are a radical terrorist group, right, of eco-terrorists. And they're like, you will do this, right? And the claims they're making are clearly in harmony with the United Nations agenda, and they're owned ultimately by a corporation which produces oil. Right? And in this, so what happens is when you trace it back, every one of these things goes back to some clandestine, corrupt organization that's trying to bury the truth. So I just, excuse me for being rude, Jason, but I'm just saying, I just want to be clear that this idea, the things you're saying, yes, they've happened, but we also we could desalinate the entire ocean, and it wouldn't do any harm to the ocean, because the ocean used to be all fresh water, right? And there's actual, seaweed that's frozen in Antarctica that all we have to do is de-thaw it, and it would literally take all the water on the planet and turn it into fresh water. I mean, so I think we got to kind of get away. We got to stop talking about things that are not real. Like we have to get away from it, because this is what is putting us in this rut and causing us to fight for things in the wrong way, and they divide us in a way that's unnecessary.
Tank.
Right, I agree.
Tank, you're well, we're both jumping in, but Tank, I think you're correct. We have to stop talking about this being the problem, but we do obviously, depleting the rainforest is not the best solution for the world, right? Because we lose things like medicines and wildlife that are not replaceable, right? So that there is a reason to stop that, but it's not about the CO2. There are things that are happening with the plankton and the rest of that, and we could end up with a problem. But this is also part of the geoengineering that they're doing. They are creating this problem so that they can blame us, so that they can basically put a helmet on us, so that we don't breathe anything other than the oxygen that we're given, pure oxygen, so that we're no longer having to. But we have to buy it, right? And there's no byproduct.
Consumerism.
Yeah. And then they can monitor our CO2 output, and then they'll put a hose up our butt to manage the methane.
Well, gas to that, man.
And then we'll be totally Borgified, but so we don't want to go down that road. Stop with the insanity.
Yeah, you're right. And by the way, of course, I'm not for tearing up the rainforest. However, natural fires that occur places in the rainforest, they
right.
always bring forth new trees and whatever. But I will say that there's also the rainforest. There's all types of cures there, and there's various other places on the planet that have the cures for every disease naturally that we know know. Now, Kim has talked about this, and the quantum system has mapped everything. So any of these, even the man-made diseases, the cures are out there. They're out there in the planet, natural. There's nothing that should keep us in the suppressed state that we're in. And the idea of increasing oxygen levels, our actual oxygen that we should be breathing, if I understand it, Kim told me this a long time ago, I think it should be 30% more oxygen in the air. Now, if there was 30% more oxygen in the air, there's a spin out there that says, well, then we would die in too much. It's not true. We would actually be stronger. We'd live longer, right? Disease would really be a thing of the past, right? But the controllers, they were more comfortable the way the air is, so they modified it, to suit their purposes. So,
interjected with oxygen, the reason why we had such big, this show how oxygen works. The insects were bigger back in ancient history times because of the more pure oxygen, and that really made them big. And then as time went on, it became less because the thorax is in their abdomen. So
you're not really making a good case for more oxygen now, because we really don't want bigger bugs.
Yeah, I don't want bigger bugs. But to your point, Jay, people were bigger too. The Smithsonian has, countless numbers of burial sites and skeletons of giants from every place on the planet. We know this for a fact. We know that there's Egyptian tombs here on American soil.
Right.
We know that there is, I think it's New Mexico, where you have this original Aramaic version of the Ten Commandments that's etched into the stone that is just as old, if not older, than the Dead Sea Scrolls. We know that, the Dead Sea Scrolls talk extensively, that they don't let this out because they've only tapped the surface of it in many ways, but it talks about, experiences that it'd be hard to argue that they were not talking about galactics and the experiences that they didn't put in the Bible, right? We know that there's these massive land masses, like up in the Thousand Islands, we have Elephant Island, I think it's called, and there's actual studies that have been done on that where they just pulled a biological sample from that because it looks like an elephant, and they had it tested by a lab and didn't tell the lab what it was, and they confirmed it's an elephant, right? But it's so big, it wouldn't even make sense. Like, how would that be here? Right? There's all types of land masses that look like animals that are petrified that they've confirmed were actually animals. So you have animals and people were bigger, and obviously, in the Bible it talks about how when the spies went up into Canaan land, they came back down. They had two men carrying one bunch of grapes, and the grapes were so big that one grape was the size of a man's fist. So you had to have, a time on this planet when we were healthier and stronger, and bigger, and not just from, an alternative group of Nephilim and, whatever the, version is. I mean, not to say there's not other giants here, but people themselves were bigger and healthier. So we know that. That is a fact. I mean, it's not even up for speculation. I mean, we just have to embrace it. And that's part of what I find, Kim was saying this tonight, and I really did appreciate this. She's like, we just have to start dealing with what's real, and stop playing these games anymore about all of these, like these lies that are out there, and stop allowing them to grow. I mean, we just have to.
Right.
We have to stop. Like at the end of the day, whether you are pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine, I can almost guarantee that you feel you have the right to your freedom to choose how you want to live your life.
Right.
Because if you don't have that freedom, what's going to happen? Well, think about it. If you're part of the the hardcore lesbian, gay, bisexual, and you're just you think we should be teaching this to our kids at a very young age and encouraging it, and you want to, but let's just say you're naturally gay. You just want to be yourself. You just want to be gay. What's going to happen? Well, they're saying by taking away your religious freedoms, what people don't realize, that also includes your ethical freedoms, your right to live your life according to the things that you think are right, that are right by who you are. They want to take that freedom away from you, and by taking away the vaccines, that's what they do.
Oh yeah, and by being healthier, I mean that's the whole point. For me, I haven't been on pharmaceutical drugs since 2011, and I have many ailments that are that I've done naturally. So, I mean, I'm 66, and I look younger than most people half my age.
Pharmaceuticals have a incredibly damaging effect. They are very low frequency, and by using them constantly, inevitably, we're going to have all types of things in our body that are not going to serve it. And these are designed that way. They're designed to control the length of your life.
Right.
And I know that's hard for people to wrap their mind around sometimes, but there just gets to a point where it's like, I know this is hard to accept, but it's so anyhow, right? And that's something where it's like, that truth, that connection to people, it clearly doesn't happen overnight. I was having a conversation this weekend with some folks, and and they were, like, just they blamed everything happening with the vaccines. Their first jump was, well, that's because of the anti-vaxxers. And then as I, continued to drop facts on them over and over and over and over and over again, they looked at me like I was insane. I'm like, I didn't make these things up. Here's the Supreme Court ruling, right? Here's the Supreme Court ruling, that Michelle Walker got me, right? And it says that vaccines, now they denied this. They said that's not true. The Supreme Court didn't say that. But it actually says they are unavoidably unsafe, right? So they're unavoidably unsafe.
And the fact, quote, unavoidably unsafe, the FDA is supposed to make sure that the food is not adulterated and drugs are not adulterated too. So therefore, they don't even uphold the 1905 corporation for the FDA. We're supposed to also do a study on everything for the three parties.
So it's what? Say that again?
There's supposed to be, when they do a study of a drug, there's supposed to be 3 studies done by 3 different entities to prove the point, is it healthy or not healthy? And when the FDA doesn't do any more studies, they leave it to 2. So 2 can agree with 1.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, so think about that, right? So these things are, there's so many ways that are factual, right? They're factual. Now, most people aren't doing this research. They're not looking to find out, right? Because, and the reaction from the people I was talking to this weekend, who are lovely people and good parents and hardworking, and they're like, they wouldn't let that happen. I told them outright, but look, the virologist from Merck made false claims reports in sworn statements after being directed by the executives from Merck to inject animal DNA or animal substance into the lab results from the vaccine testing to make it look like the vaccines created antibodies, right, or antigen, or whatever it is, right, to fight these things. Now, that was clearly established, right? Now, there's two sworn statements, but by that time, Merck had already been basically, they had no liability, right? So what could you do? There's no liability. So at that point, it's like, well, what's your intention then? If you know this happens and you're acting ethically, then what you would do is you would make sure, oh my gosh, this happened. Any organization who knew that, even passing from our entire government, is now liable, because every one of them
Tank is muted.
Sorry.
But we need to get these factoids, and put them all in a nice quick stream of like 2 minutes and go, here's five things that say, this is why there's no question you cannot take a vaccine.
Yeah, right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, you look at these things like, well, this is what the government said. I mean, this is exactly like what happened. In all the regulatory organizations, when those two virologists came forward, I mean, you know what that took to walk away from that? They'll never work again in that industry.
Right.
Never work at all.
I mean, I guarantee those guys right now are in their house regretting doing it because, they got buried, the research got buried, no one talks about it, no one mentions it. They weren't able to help anybody with it.
Right.
I mean, but there's sworn statements that are entered in record in false claims reports with the government, which you have to believe that several government authorities saw, and all of them chose to ignore it because they knew. Well, of course they did this. They were protecting the plan.
Right.
And that's where the question comes in. What plan, right? Yeah. Everybody should be asking, what exactly was your intention? Yeah. Now, proving intent is one of the hardest things to do in a legal court, right? Like, this is where it's premeditated. Now, you're talking about a premeditated plan to commit murder on a massive scale.
Right.
Yeah. Keep in mind, Project Paperclip, all the Nazi scientists came in after World War II, and what did they do? They put themselves into positions of power, and they created all of these things that we're dealing with now. The idea of fluoridated water. Where did that come from? Nazi Germany. Why? To control the population.
Right.
What else do they do? Control the food. What's in the food? Control the population. So, what's in the air? I think that was probably more of a new one for them. But, the whole idea is that we're still dealing with these people that made a plan, right? And this, and we go back to before Nazi Germany and who put that into place. We're back to the same group, the elite, the mundane, that are basically the slave masters, right? That are executing on the plan. We all trace it all back to the same, ideas that, it's the people with the ultimate control through the money system are the ones that have put this in place and put this on top of us. And we have to just stop it. So the plan that they have is bad. Stop it. Stop it.
Well, may I interject?
Okay.
The polio that they had developed during the 50s until they finished up in the 60s supposedly had a cancer cell in it. So the people would prematurely decease. And I've seen people younger than me, like dying at the age of 62, even 40, dying at the age of 45. is now occurring now in the that generation. It's unbelievable. Wonderful,
Well,
wonderful.
we have that. We have the report right now done from the medical organization out of Italy, and it says outright with the findings that they had in the vaccine that the leukemia virus is in the vaccine, and the MMR, as well as the avian version of the leukemia virus.
So we're putting this in us. So then I know. Well, it's great because the health industry, which is healthcare, which actually should be sick care, because the only time you need is when you're sick. You need a well-care system where the food is your medicine, and everything's done naturally with biospheres, so you have control over your environment. But you need to have predators and predatees to be feed on insects, because if you take the insect cycle out, you're actually destroying yourself.
Jason,
So
what is
again,
it with you and the insects? No.
Well, I always like my bugs. I'm always hanging out with my roaches. I'm always finding them smoking around here.
Yeah. I gotta watch. I got some big ones out here, and I get them to be about like 3 inches long.
Yeah, we got the German cockroaches. They come with their own helmets.
Yeah, they came in on Project Paperclip. Okay.
Yeah,
So I'll give you a stat. I'll give you a stat.
All right.
Since 1971, leukemia rates for kids under the age of 10 has gone up 1% every year, right?
Wow.
So that's 46 years, right? 46 years has gone by 1%. I guess if I were to translate that roughly, I think that would be 46%. Now, that's not including increases in the population, right? And it's also not really bringing in a death toll or outcomes, right? But here's what I know. Nobody who goes into a cycle of cancer comes out alive without eventually being killed by radiation poisoning, right?
Yeah.
So you now nobody. I mean, eventually it gets you. Now, not only that, but you end up spending potentially. You represent millions of dollars. And the younger they can give you cancer, you generate millions of dollars. You're actually a very valuable asset because you're going to every 7 years you're going to go back in for cancer treatment. Right.
Well, I just want you to know I am a prostate cancer survivor, and I had it removed because I didn't want to have to deal with the isotopes. But I've had 3 cancers in my lifetime, and I survived because I found them early. And the real joke here is when I had so many polyps from my colon. They took out 2 feet, and 2 feet they took out. They found 85 polyp tissues. Now, I don't know how the politician polyps got into my English, but I can tell you they were evenly split between the Democrat and Republican one, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. Well, I know I really don't want the politicians up my.
Yeah, well, again, that's the problem. They're always behind us. And we can shoot them, too.
I think
How would
we're
you like that? Liquid.
I think we're descended into. Yeah, we're getting punchy.
Yeah. And, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to take if I take away from anything, I do apologize.
Nah, you're okay. No, you're okay, Jay. You're okay. Look, I know you mean well, man. And I apologize for being so rough. I just, I'm the same way with everybody. You know, I'm the same way with everybody. I don't want. I'm just focused on what we're doing. And at this point, I'm pushing and focused on us getting as educated as possible. And of course, we can laugh in the process, okay? Because if you don't laugh, it's going to crush anybody. It's just too much, you know.
Right.
Yeah. But, I mean, this like coming with common ground. If we fighting for the vaccines and pharmaceutical drugs as a whole, that is an institution of death. Do we agree upon that pharmaceuticals, regardless of vaccination or whatever they give us, is death?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So on that point, we all have to be adamantly at having it, like, you said about a banner. It's not that I'm trying to have one thing be one, but if you have, like, common denominator, right? You're down on with it. Denominator is the most powerful part of a fraction. It holds a whole number, where on the numerator is the division. And as long as you have the commonality of the denominator, you are there. So how we could create a common denominator? We all have to read the same books. Culture and understanding and comprehension are key to our success as the new future. I see ourselves as being surfers on the wave of change, and we have to be adamantly about getting it done. And anyone, like, this is a joke about America. America is 2 times communist. How's that, sir? Well, communists killed a lot of people in 5 years and stopped. If we take 10 years, waste all the money, and still don't solve the problem. Shut up.
Yeah, no, sorry, Steve.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't get it. I didn't get
Don't
it.
blow your brains out, please.
Yeah.
But like that's the irony of society. We can do. We have the 10-year homeless plan, and it's still going on. And the thing is that I'm a socialist, social capitalist. I just sent you a clip of what I mean. But again, as a person who I am, I don't want to own anything you have. I don't want to have anything you have, anything my own. I want to be able to provide for myself. And if we can get more together, that's ideal. That's idyllic. Because as a wholesale, you get more with wholesale than you do retail. And if more we think and do things in volume and reciprocity and working together as a community and a society, we can do a lot. And I grant you that with Kim doing her thing and you're doing your thing, and waiting for the release of our capital to do these things. We are all great creators. The thing is that we've been, as you said, we've been played down, made stupid, and anyone who speaks up to them is considered anti-government, anti-American, and I'm not anti-government. I want the government to stay on their articles of the corporation. I'll stay with my Bill of Rights. And I don't need the first 10 because I truly believe in equality. No one should be divided, and I have no right to touch anyone unless they want me to touch them. And that's consent. Government is not a consentist. It's a statutory rapist. And a statutory rapist uses the state laws to enforce their repugnant laws against us, and as we are, repugnant laws are null and void. You can walk away with impunity. And the government doesn't recognize its own corruption because, again, as you said, one of you guys have said, you have a fox, you can't have a fox watching the hen house because he likes to have a quick meal.
That's right. Right. You can't leave Dracula over the blood bank.
Right, and I like that. But you know what?
Listen, we have to give the benefit of the doubt to our leaders. I think most importantly, maybe in the military. Here, let me share this. I think this will really sum up the kind of important decisions they're making. Let's see, where is it? Here we go. Army chiefs are considering allowing male soldiers to wear makeup. Thank goodness. Finally, someone's addressing it.
Well, I know I'm
This
frightened.
is a big concern. Yeah, I feel better already just knowing that there's enough time on their hands. They're like, guys, can we take this seriously? Can men wear makeup?
Oh, come on, give me a break. I'm lucky I wash my face and shave every day. I don't like, what are these guys? You go to war, you're not going to a dance, going to war, and you then use makeup, make sure you're camouflaged. Right on.
Right.
Be invisible. And there is a story about being invisible. When I was in the Corps in '74 down at Quantico, where the FBI does their training, I prayed to God that I'd be ignored by my sergeant instructor. Well, they did ignore me, and my troop said I was a bad marcher. They gave me a little 1 year, like a very small set of sneakers that a kid would wear. And I said, gee, I didn't realize it was that bad, but they saw it. I did it, and I did the platoon sergeant, the sergeant instructor. Back to you, Dan, and that tank.
Eventually, Jay, you're gonna learn my name. I hope.
Yeah. No, you're on Dan's show, Tank. Oh, here's a good funny one. When I was speaking to Dan, he said about doing things on set time and stuff. He said Tank is a running target, and I replied. I think I sent it on to. Gee, I thought Tank was armored.
Yeah, but I'm running too. Not running away though. Just running like an Indian.
Running too. You're a two-man. You do it too. You are too, and bless you.
Yeah, thanks. So, anyways, that's pretty much what I got for tonight. We got all types of, it's big impeachment, nonsensical stuff going on this week, and hopefully we could get some actual order out there. And I don't know what it would take, but with the media exactly, but just to the universe, I feel very clear about this, right? About what is needed to restore order here in the country, in America, and also throughout the world, right? We have to have the people stand up. That's the number one thing. People have to be united under things that actually affect all of us, and we have to also acknowledge and realize and be allowed to discuss openly that, there is an anti-human agenda. And we all have to agree, like, do we feel like we have the right to live, right? And do we really think that because President Trump talked about, was bragging to some guys about, walking up and kissing a girl or something, which we're not going to say that that's an admirable thing to say, but is that really worse than the fact that all of these horrific crimes and this, racket of pedophilia and all this stuff, is that really what's going to divide us? I mean, we really can't take a stand for like, hey, I think a child that is born into this world, by whatever means, that child doesn't have the right to live. Is that really what's going to divide us? We can't all agree on that, So we got to focus on the things that we do agree on. And the first thing is we have to walk into this battle united in that we're not going to, even if you are pro-vax or anti-vax, it does not matter. At the end of the day, you ought to be pro living your life by the way that you want to, because that is what liberty is. And as long as you're not hurting anybody, you should be allowed to do that. So we should all be on that fight on the law side. We should all be united that we need to actually get results before we just inject ourselves or our children with it, because the next step is to force everybody to be vaccinated, right? And what they're vaccinating against is intelligence. They're vaccinating against enlightenment. They're vaccinating against good health. That's what they're vaccinating against. Yeah. They're vaccinating against the human condition, and they're doing it. And it's the easiest way. Look, we are under an attack. This is biological warfare, and that is real. That's a real thing. So we got to take that out, and we're going to have access and some kind of control with the money, and we have to use that money to buy our own networks so that the truth can get out there without being governed by a very small elite group of lying psychopaths, right? And and none of those things are derogatory terms. That is just the nature of what they do. It's and it's a condition that you can't undo. You can't undo being a serial killer. And by the way, that's exactly what they are. They are repeatedly killing people, and they don't care or have any concern or emotion about it. They'll defend their stance, no matter how mediocre it is. They'll take a stand to maintain their position of,
Well, again, I did my master's thesis in community education and community development. The four things that the establishment does is create alienation. And when there's alienation, you have apathy. If no one is coming to is calling for help, oh, we're doing a good job. The thing is down. But if you alienate the people that frustrate them, they won't come back. Next thing is is duplication of services. We see it in our own movements of the liberty groups, and they are doing the same thing, but everybody wants their own power. And if you bring things together, it's quicker, but no one wants to lose their authority and power. The third thing is the extent of the waste. the Puritan ethic, there's more where that came from. Well, there's not more where that came from. You have to be a conservative of your natural and capital resources. If you are concerned about a waste, you find ways to save. And the last thing is the hardest thing, is the perpetuation of the insanity of the institutions. We know it's bad, but we can't fix it, so let's keep on going off the hill and crash until it burns. And,
no, let's
and
fix it.
Let's
fix it.
Yeah.
Let's fix it.
And the fixing is with the PAM, that's the Patriot Action Movement, and getting the news out. And the more we bomb them, freeze up their Senate phones. Let's burn them out. Let's be excessive aggressives. You don't need to have violence to upset your opponent. You can upset your opponent by just being adamant and by your numbers, 2 to 300. They're 2 to 300. I have no problems with government. Stay on your side. I'm at peace. I mean, everything that you're doing, you want to do, and with your organizations, I give credos to you, and it's fantastic. And we are all in the same boat, and it's filling up with water, and we don't have any hands to empty the boat. But again, we will get it out the water by using our feet.
Well, I look forward to seeing your Patriots Action Movement. That's right. And see what it does. I still think there has to be an organized union.
Yes.
And we do have to come together. And you know what? And everybody out there, I'm not trying to take anybody's power away. Matter of fact, I'm trying to give people power. All these groups who have these, different alliances and, different groups that they're doing common law. My question is, what have you done? What have you accomplished? Have you, outside of defend your own self, because that's usually what happens, right? You become an expert, and then they try to get you in trouble with something nonsense, and you've done so much research, you get yourself out of it after a couple of years of just being harassed, and then you're defeated because you can't imagine trying to help other people.
Yeah, and one of the things that's perpetuating these things is people try to get organized under the government systems, right? Oh, I'll become a 501c3, right? Well, why are you going to do that? Well, why not just stay a private group, right? It doesn't mean you're secret. If privacy does not mean secret, you're allowed to talk about it. You're allowed to tell people. It doesn't. Government, public is about being government. So
the only reason why you incorporate is basically to protect the individuals in the organization. If the organization does something wrong, the individuals who are leading it are not directly responsible for the underlings, but will be charged with particular wrongdoing.
Well, there's other ways to deal with that, because what you're really worried about is losing your possessions, right? Which you don't possess anything anyway, but you can basically have everything put into a trust, right? And then you're not going to worry about.
I'll tell you, the Guardian of Camelot, we could use that structure because it's an unincorporated, tax-exempt association, and there's ethical guidelines by which you have to operate, right? It's just ethical business practice. Now, in that structure, we could bring everybody in under that structure, and they could have their organization and do their thing, and we could all agree. Just look, all I'm asking everybody to do is just this one fight. Can we just put down? I'm telling you, I'm going to put this out publicly because that's what I think is the best way to do it, and I fervently believe that the more public we are, the safer we are. But I'm going to put this out for everybody, and I'll tell you what: anybody who wants to duplicate it, do it better, improve on it, go for it. But I will give you all the facts. I will give you every document. I will give you every piece of information you need. That if you had the heart to take up this battle, you can win, and you have the right. Matter of fact, they can't. There's not even an argument against it, because I mean, we've gone to such length. We've got people all over researching to make sure there's nothing that we're missing now. And the more we get into it, every time you get into something where you think, oh, this could catch us up, you get into it further, and you're like, no, it actually helps us. That's how powerful the corruption against us has been. That's how powerful brainwashing has been. That because it's not in the mainstream, and we don't hear it in the mainstream media, we think we have no power. But all of our power is in our awareness of our power. Now, if we are aware that we are the governed, that the government draws its power from, why do you think they use us? Because we're powerful. But we're not powerful if we stay divided. We stay weak. We stay, we stay in this, state of feeling helpless and waiting for someone else to do something. Meanwhile, how much energy does it really take? It's still just going to be a few people who end up actually arguing the case or bring the case up. We'll do that, but we need to make sure we need the support of the people who've been doing this, who got the hell beat out of them, Jay, like you. I mean, I know you pulled it off, right? But it's not pleasant, right?
Well, again, I'm a survivor. I mean, that's my purpose. I'm one hell of a person, and I thank God for whatever He's given me.
And one hell of a person, good guy.
Tank, I really appreciate you and your fervor. You're younger than I am, and you're the son I never had when I was 18. So in a way, you're my son by proxy.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks. So you know what?
Just remember his name. I just said. I said, just remember his name, your son.
Yeah. You know what? At the end of the day, what I feel about it is that we owe it to the group that has come before us, like Jay and others, who have fought this fight and kept this torch lit. And it's time for us to pick it up and continue the fight. Because our forefathers who founded this country, whether there's a secret backstory or not, the core principles that were established in our Constitution is the most credible and profound words ever written in a document to establish a government for a country. And there's a reason why you have other countries, like in Hong Kong, when they're putting up our flag, and other places asking us help. And there's a reason why you have all these different countries getting behind Trump, because they know that we value our freedom of speech, we value our freedom of religion. We know, or at least generically, we've heard our rights spouted out. Now, what we don't realize right now is they are fooling us into giving those rights up. And I'm of the opinion that it shouldn't be like, I'm a survivor. We shouldn't be talking about I survived. That should not be what it is. That's not what this country is about. It's just barely getting by. And I just barely made it through by asserting all of my rights that are mine.
Right. And yeah, it's a beautiful commitment that we have. I mean, we are a people of a spirit. We are the many who have came before us. But if energy can be neither created nor destroyed, our forefathers are still here, and we are living again, because the billions of people have been born of, say, 4 million years of mankind, we know. And the evolution of man is that we've been perverted into a false sense of security. I mean, Benjamin Franklin said, those who seek safety and security will get neither. I'd rather be a man with my own arms on me and know that I have no right to use my show my weapon unless I'm threatened, and that takes a lot to do in self-defense, because you have no right to take someone's life just because you don't like them and you're pissed off. And anyone who does that is a felon, and that is immoral. Amoral. You have morality. People who know what's right and wrong. They have people immoral that take the immoral path of being a criminal. And then you have amoral people who don't know the difference between right and wrong. And these people are sometimes victims of alcohol syndrome from the mother, and they will actually just do something and kill someone and have no remorse because the person did something that they didn't like, and they has no empathy. So I mean, we're creating these monsters with that are hurting us, and we need to cure ourselves from the pain of the institution of corruption. Back to you, Ken.
Yeah. Look, man, thank you for that definition, by the way. I appreciate that. I'm a lover of words, and I do believe in the power of it, and use it in the right way. And I also realize that there's spells that can be used against us, and I think it's important. I love what you had to say the other night about, having a dictionary and a thesaurus. I am someone who looks up words constantly. I'm constantly looking up words because I want to understand what they're being used, or what the real meaning is, and how we use them in our favor. And words are designed to disrupt our frequency of our natural ability to communicate through vibration and frequency. But if they're used the right way, they can support what we're doing. And, that's what we're trying to do. So,
well, with your papers, this is a scenario. You get your papers together. We go down to 50 Pearl Street, file your papers, and then before you file your papers, make sure you have the news media out there. I'll be there with you, and I can show that I was a victim of their BS and how they're victimizing millions of people. I'm only one person, but you are the force in that paper there, and I want to be there with you when you put your papers in. And that's the servo. That's our dynamite. That's our British blow-up hill in World War I. It killed thousands of Germans they blow them up from below. Yes,
indeed.
I mean, I don't believe in violence. I mean, I'd love to hate the people, but I have to hate to kill a person, because it's easy to kill someone when you got that mindset, and it's harder to live with the person, but you have more in profiteering. Not from the thing, but profit with the person by the Lord God, and profit with the person making exchanges. And the profit is either, you always do good with people when you speak to them. I mean, I'm a kind of person that everyone needs in the world is to smile at people and just make a stupid remark and make them smile. Like if someone has a handicap, you say something, who's a wheelchair, yeah, no speeding, sir, thank you. And then, or someone's with a cane. It's like, no one, hey, no, you got a cane there. There's too much, raise your cane. Or someone is found a bag. I said, hey, that looks like my wife. Please take her.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. All right. Well,
all right. There we go.
So I appreciate that.
We're descending again.
I'm sorry.
We're descending again.
Finish up, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's say good night, everyone. Let's move on to our next agenda tomorrow, and we'll see where if Kim has moved anything into any local hands.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, have a good night.
God bless you all, and power to the people, because we are the power.
Subscribe, share, give thumbs up.